I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9 to the Sky. So as I jump back into some more All the Mods 9 to the Sky, there's a bit of a progression line that we sort of need to take a look at. Now, for the most part, up until this point, we have been able to get by without going to the end. And yes, there's a lot of things that we can do before needing to go to the end and getting into materials. Now, that has mostly been due to the fact that we've been able to sieve most of our resources that we would typically have to go to the end for. But now I've started to hit sort of a turning point, right? We have the shulker right here, and we noticed that when we were playing around with thermal, that some of the advanced thermal things are going to require us to have shulker shells. These are things that we have to get from the end. But not only that, if I want to dive into, for example, Project E, well, I'm going to need to go to the end and get myself some dragon breath. And this is going to be something that I'd have to do if I ever want to think about making a Philosopher's Stone, which of course in this pack is one of the steps that we actually need to be able to dive into Project E. Now, because of the setups that you see behind me and the immense amount of power that we now have available to us, I think this would be the perfect episode for getting into the Hostile Neural Networks mod. Basically a mod that allows us to learn data about a mob and then use that data to simulate its existence and also its death, which sounds absolutely horrifying. But there are predictions that we can get, and those predictions basically 3D print, I guess you could say, Minecraft mob drops. But before we go to the end and do all of that, I kind of want an area to put this in. So I've been thinking about the expansion of the roof up here, and I've been working on this just a little bit, going 3 blocks up, 1 block, 3 blocks, and then a few blocks over. So far, this is looking pretty good, I think. I'm going with some polished andesite, some cyan concrete here as a contrast to the orange, and some polished cut calcite and some regular calcite, along with these end rods, which I think really fit that whole cyberpunk feel. Now, when it comes to this build, the roof is going to also be a functional workspace, because the roof's not going to end. This is going to keep growing and growing. That's why these pipes are sort of cut off, because I still am going to be expanding this whole thing through the base. And these pipes, they work really well as a pipe facade for our cables from Applied Energistics. And something else to mention, if you're wondering why my controller looks like normal now in this pack, well, that's because I ended up changing one of the resources packs that is inside the pack. So to change this back to normal, you have to remove the Skyblock texture pack that is actually overriding this. So you just open up your options, go to resource packs, and then you're going to look for the Skyblock AE2 overrides that is over here on the right side, and you're going to want to click this arrow to bring it over onto the left side, and then just hit done. You're going to have to wait a moment as the resource packs reload, but after that's done, you'll get your standard AE2 back. I was wondering why it looked all different before. And personally, for the cyberpunk feel, this right here is more fitting. Now, with this sort of template sort of built out, I want to use my copy paste gadget to make this effortless for pasting it into these other sections. And so to do that, I have my copy paste gadget. I'm just going to right click this corner here and then shift right click the far outside corner over here. And now is when I need to go into my settings up in this section right here and start playing around with all of the different coordinates. So for example, right here, if I go ahead and confirm that, we'll notice that this is now accepting all the blocks that are within the height, but this section right here is not been covered. So I'm going to have to toss into here and start playing around with all of the settings to figure out which side is being modified. There we go. So I found that that one right there has now filled the whole area. And so this whole thing, it's almost done, because this section right here also has to be added. Let's go ahead and find out what section adds to this. Okay, so that seemed like that is, this is moving the entire box. So we need to expand out, and that should now all be contained. There we go. So we played around with the coordinates, got it all set up, and now all I have to do is hit copy and make sure this whole new section is copied. And then when I go to the paste, we'll be able to see the entirety of this paste here. And the cool part is we can just rotate this. So I can rotate this until it fits into the area that I need it to fit into. And all we're going to do is just have the ingredients in our inventory and right click. Now with something as big as this, you probably want to anchor it down and just make sure that it is in the appropriate position before accepting the changes. So once it's anchored in, I'm gonna modify this a little bit and make sure that it is setting where it's supposed to be. For example, I noticed that there's blocks that are clipping, which probably means that this needs to go up 1 block. Or in my case, I was completely wrong. So I've got to go in here, lower it back down, but then figure out the appropriate adjustments. So like right there, I think are good. But something else I notice, this whole thing is shifted off 1. So these should be hanging off 1 block from the main structure. So yeah, this still has to be edited a little bit. And it's like a lot of trial and error figuring this out. All right, and then I think that is ready to go. And all I have to do is hope that I have all of the ingredients in my inventory and right click. Oh boy. And then it pastes it all in, or at least it's going to paste everything that at least you have in your inventory. So notice it didn't paste everything in, and that's because I just have to add, for example, those slabs in, and then I can just right click again, and anything that I didn't have prior, it's now going to fill in. Man, you just gotta love the building gadgets. This makes building absolutely effortless and so much nicer. Be gone, repetitiveness, be gone. Now, before heading into the end, I have prepped up a few things. So I now have made myself a deep learner. This is very simple to make, and some frameworks. These are also very simple to make. And you're gonna need frameworks because that is what you're going to use to sort of program these mob drops. You're going to have to right click on the mob, and then you're going to have to take the mobs out. Well, take a few of them out, that is. And so I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the end. Now, this is just one of many ways that you could get to the end. This right here is probably one of the cheapest ways of getting to the end, but if you wanted an actual end portal that involves end portal frames and everything, there is an Ars ritual that will actually summon that, and it also includes a spawner in it. But bear in mind, if you do use this ritual, that the portal frames, well, they're not easy to quote-unquote break, without of course using exploits, that is. So the cake method is probably going to be the least harmful way of doing this to your base. So let's go ahead and make our cake, and we should be almost ready to go. I say almost because you need to make sure you have some way of getting back, especially if you're not going to take out the dragon. And I still don't know if I'm going to take it out as of right now. The only thing I really need to do is farm dragon's breath. So I also need glass bottles. So I guess here we go. We should be able to right click this and notice it only gives us a slice. How dare they? The whole cake. Who come over here and ate this thing? Was it you? It had to have been you. You ate it, didn't you? Anyways, I guess we just right click this now, and this is going to teleport us. No coming back. Like this is it. We've made the decision, and our island looks like it got put underground. Typical. And we should be able to get out of here. I guess I could scroll through the list and do the escape tunnel. It's this one right here. That'll make it a little bit easier to get out of here. Perfect. Gotta love Ultimine. It's just so powerful. But yes, the big thing that I need to worry about is just collecting a little bit of dragon's breath and then just leaving the island since we have flight. Like that makes it so nice. Ooh, there's prosperity ore here. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we got prosperity ore. We got inferium essence here. I'm assuming this is tin. Oh boy. And there's even this right here from Silent Gear. So yeah, this is where you'll actually find some of the end Silent Gear ingredients. Now I just need this guy to toss some dragon's breath at me. Now I don't technically have to wait for him to drop dragon's breath. There is a way that we can get dragon's breath without doing it this method, but I am going to grab as much of this as I can. And also, if you right click your bottle in here on the end stone and stuff in the air, you'll actually get Ender air bottles from Botania. Okay, so the dragon is landing. This is the perfect time to dip out of here. But first, I do want to place in a waystone, and we're going to call this End, because this is the main End Island. But you know what? I'm just going to fly off in the distance. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because you can actually just travel to the End Islands. Like, you can. It's going to take you a few 100 blocks, but you could just walk out there or bridge out there if you really wanted to. And so long and farewell to the dragon. You won't be missed. And wouldn't you know it, after traveling about 1,000 blocks, we're now at the end island. And it didn't take that long at all. And it gives us access to all the stuff. But the main thing we are looking for, of course, are the shulkers. So we have to find ourselves an inn city. And then while we're there, might as well grab a bit of the loot. Now, it probably would have been nice if I would have made myself a structure compass. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and place a waystone down, and I'm going to go ahead and head back, and I'm just going to craft myself a structure compass since it's in here. Now, oddly enough, snow is one of the things that we need, and we can get snow by using an entropy manipulator. So I should be able to grab, for example, like water, and we should be able to easily craft one of those. So grab a water bucket, and by placing the water down, or there's water right here, I should be able to just shift right click. So that turns it into ice, and there should be different modes. So can I just right click this? So right clicking definitely didn't work. There's a lot of different ways that we can do this. Now it says shift plus right click is the one that's supposed to grant us snow, but it's also giving us ice. Oh, I'm such a goofball. It says flowing water. So this should be like an infinite way of getting it. So we just have flowing water, we shift right click, and look, we get infinite snow that way. Believe me, making the structure compass is going to save you so much time. So anytime you spend crafting this thing is going to be overcome by the time that it's going to save you in searching for this structure. So perfect. After heading back to our temporary waystone, we should be able to now shift right click, and we can search, for example, end city. Perfect. Hit that search button. Ow. And I just have to right click it, it looks like. And now it's going to start searching for it. So it says 450 blocks away. So we weren't even that far from it. It should be right over here somewhere. And there it is. And we got lucky. Oh man, it's the one with the head and everything. Oh, this is perfect. So the only thing we're technically missing from the end would be like a dragon egg, because we have no way of getting a dragon egg without first having a dragon egg. But we can actually automate with this skull right here something very special. So this dragon head is really nice because we can use it inside of the extractor here to produce dragon's breath. So this is a perfect way of automating dragon's breath easily. But of course, I am after something else as well. I am after this fella. So I'm just going to right click on the shulker, and then I just need to put it inside the deep learner. And now you can put the deep learner in your offhand, or it does have a curio slot, which is another thing to keep in mind. You can put that right there. And we just need to take these guys out. And in doing so, notice it says, it did say 6 remaining. Now it says 5 remaining. And so we just need to take at least 6 out before we can put it inside of a machine. And another cool part about putting in a machine, once it's in there, after you get it above the faulty level, which is what it currently is in, as soon as it's in basic, it will continue to grow in levels over time. So you don't have to worry about killing like 100 of these mobs. Now, what is in these loot chests? As to be expected, a ton of stuff, including gems that are very special to me. So let's see, what else is in these? There's the elytra. So we get an elytra chest. This is nice, by the way, because if you're playing on a server, these chests will regenerate for another player. This chest took a little bit to generate. A soul tree sapling from productive trees. Ooh, we can get different productive tree saplings in here? Oh, that's cool. I wonder what this one looks like. I mean, we would have to search up. So this gives us soul tree logs. Soul tree? I wonder if there's like leaves. Like, what's the soul leaves? Oh, they look like bones. Oh, that's interesting. That's another thing about these, like these productive trees have some animated textures for some things. And that could be something we can use in our build. Ooh, something else we just got is the Ender. Now this sword will help us get Enderman Skull, which we will need for progression through Ender IO. So something to definitely note. Make sure you take this and maybe kill some Endermen with it so you can potentially get yourself a skull from it. Now that's far from the best loot because we should be able to gather more loot from here. And we also got to get our data model up and running. So yeah, this place is going to be crazy for that. And thankfully we have flight. So anytime they hit us with levitation, it's going to be completely negated because of our flight, which feels really overpowered. I will say the ability totems I've always felt are just insanely overpowered. I mean, they really, really are. And the fact that there's no requirement for this flight at all, so no progression, nothing other than a mob farm. Yeah, I mean, I'm over here calling it overpowered. It really does feel that way. But I'm after the loot. Let's go ahead and grab this as if this loot wasn't overpowered. Yes, this is stuff that I want. So we can use a ritual, by the way, to summon in these mobs from Ars Nouveau, but it is nice to be able to find those actual mob drops. So we have to do less of that, and we can focus more on the fun part of the mod. And this stuff is worth finding here as well, because you can break down this gear. This, for example, I believe is the epic tier. You can break this down from Apotheosis, and you can get yourself all kinds of materials that you can use to reforge your own gear, which is something that I really want to do, potentially. Potentially, I'm going to put that in quotations. Some potential is going to happen there. Aha. And, oh, stasis is really nice as well. Some cool things that stasis can do. It's basically like a bubble. It can turn a bubble wand. I really want to show this. It can turn a bubble wand from supplementaries into an angel block placer. So you can right click stasis bubbles and then you can place blocks into them. So pretty darn neat. And it looks like we have one more building with loot chests. And, ooh, we got some loot capacitors, and these will be very handy too for Ender.io. Seems like a lot of useful stuff from Ender.io. And there's also capacitors that we are getting from Pneumaticraft, which will save us in needing to craft the pesky capacitors. Now that sound we just heard, oh yes, this is another epic mob. That's why I said grab the epic loot from here, because these guys can be kind of difficult to chip down. They typically have a lot of health, and so unless you have some insanely powerful gear, you're probably going to have a hard time taking these guys down. So yeah, and this one, for example, gives me blindness, but its health is tremendous, and we only deal typically like 1 or 2 damage to these guys with standard weapons. But they will drop that Apotheosis gear, so that could be very useful. You are not hitting me. That could be pretty useful. As like I said, you can break that stuff down later on and make your own gear. Or you could just use the gear you find. It depends on how great it is. I mean, while I'm here, I might as well loot a few more structures. Like, why not, right? Let's see. I don't think we looted a structure that has chests like this. I don't know if they have different loot pools or different roles. Ooh, what is this? A familiar replacement. Oh, that's cool. That's one of the things that will technically let you resummon like a dog if you have, for example, one of your pets pass away, unfortunately. Now, something else that may definitely go overlooked are these tombstones. These are really nice, right? These allow you to teleport to a certain location, but these scrolls also have some crazy stuff. Dispels negative effects over time. These lost pages just grant you experience. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. So after this works, notice I just jumped to 30 something levels with that. Like, I don't even know what to say. There's so much stuff you can gain here. This reduces damage taken by frost by 75%. And if you have friends you're playing with, it will affect them as well. So I gotta say, this has been the nicest end experience I've had in a while. Didn't even have to take on the dragon, as I have done that fight too many times to count. But that doesn't mean I won't be fighting the dragon. Ultimately, I am going to be going back to fight the dragon, and possibly fighting the dragon more than once. Because there's a data model for the dragon. Just like we did for the shulkers, there's one for just about every mob. Ooh, and right before we leave, these are the ones you're looking for. These right here. These are the mythic. And these are definitely worth grabbing if you can. If you can take these guys down, that is the one that you want to technically be farming, because this will end up granting you the highest tier Apotheosis gear you can get. Oh yes, Godforged Pearl level. And after chomping away at this guy, there we go. Titan Forged. And what did we actually get that was Titan Forged? A shovel. So this is why I said the things that you get from this, they're going to be kind of random, but you will get like tools, weapon, armor, shields, all kinds of stuff. And for example, like this, I may not use this. This tool will break an area that's a 5x3. That's kind of ridiculous, but, and not super usable for me, but we can strip off all of the enchants on this later on. And we can also break this gear down into Godforged Pearls, in which we can use for our own purpose. Now with that, I just need to get back home. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess leave it here on the island. There's next to some bees, which we can get into later on. So end island. Perfect. Nothing fancy. Look at that guy teleporting all over the place. So now we can head right back home and we're good to go. Something I noticed about these familiars, they teleport to you even if they're setting whenever you come back to this dimension. Very interesting. Now, after completing this roof, I'm starting to come up with a bunch of ideas. And one of those ideas is actually using these things right here. So the simulation chambers as essentially decoration. So what I would have is on each of these roofs, I would have 6 of these. And then on each side over here, I would have a loot fabricator. There'd be a loot fabricator here and one here, essentially accepting the drops, the predictions that these 3 generate going into the side, these 3 generating going into the side. For example, on all of the roofs. This is actually perfect because if I was to set up a simulation chamber for every single one of the mobs that I technically want to set up simulations for, they fit perfectly on the roof, allowing us to have 6 of these simulation chambers per roof. Now, there is one thing though that I've got to figure out, and that's how to route items to all of these. And this is where I think modular routers is really going to play a pivotal role. Now, I didn't realize how beautiful this whole setup was going to be until I started to work things out. Oh, this is going to be a beautiful structure here. So I could include this directly into the slab here and actually make this look just like a slab. But for now, I'm going to place them in here so we can visualize these modular routers. This is super cool because modular routers allows us to send and receive items, send fluids, send power, all kinds of cool stuff. But in this case, we're just going to be handling items. Now, I'm going to be utilizing a distributor module. This allows us to send and pull, and also allows us to send and pull to multiple machines. The one thing you have to note about modular routers is you only have one inventory slot to deal with. This is the slot where the items are handled. And that one thing that we're going to be handling is the prediction matrix, because we need to send every single simulation chamber a prediction matrix. This is going to get turned into these predictions that you see right here. So we're going to end up either getting a generalized prediction of some sort or a prediction of some sort that looks like this. And we're also going to get the prediction that we actually need to route into the machine. Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I send to this the regular prediction. And then I'm going to go ahead and add these so we can visualize this. I just want this top area right here to be where we actually send that matrix prediction. And those are going to be handled through this particular modular router, which we're going to have an export card, making sure we always keep those in stock. So they should instantly send to all the machines. Now on the receiving end, this one's going to get a little bit more complicated, as this modular router is going to have to handle not only pulling all of the byproducts or the products out of the machines, but we also need to make sure that we send with this as well, sending our predictions into the loot fabricator to be mixed. And then we probably also want to have some sort of receiving mode with that. So we probably also want to pull the ingredients out of the loot fabricator and then make sure we have an importer down here, which will pull those out. So this thing's going to have to be pretty quick, and I hope that it can actually sustain all of this. So let's go ahead and first start off with this modular router, which we are going to make sure this distribution module is set up properly. We want to transfer out of the router, which is pretty nice. And round robin is fine. That's actually exactly what we want. And what we need to do is over here on all of these simulation chambers, I'm going to shift right click on the top of the block. Now, right now I only have one to send to, but if I had all of them set up, which I'm going to do now, here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and link the rest of these up. So making sure to select the top slot. And notice we can only have up to 8 machines per distributor module. I love how I'm calling it distributor, which is definitely distributor. I'm a dork. Now back in this machine, all we have to do is insert it into the modular slot. And this is essentially going to work like a program. The more of these you have, it's going to work from left to right, cycling through this pretty much program that you could design, but our program is going to loop by sending these items in those locations. Now in this case, I want to export, and I specifically want to export these prediction matrices, and I want to make sure that I'm auto crafting them, and so they should start to fill into this buffer slot. Now right now, if we go back to these won't allow the insertion of this item just yet. Simply because we do not have a data in here or a data model, but I do have a data model. If I can go ahead and find that, I'm pretty sure, oh, it's still in my learner. So if we open this up, bam, now I can take the shulker out. And I should be able to put this in here, and we should start to see the item getting sent, and they are now starting to fill up. Now, as far as power goes, I'm just going to slap a gate on the back of these, and now it's all powered up and ready to go. Should start working, and hopefully in the meantime, while this is working, it'll give us some predictions to work with. So now this next step is going to involve a combination of a couple of things that we don't really have fully set up yet, because we're going to really need to know what mobs we're farming. But I can go ahead and demonstrate this with at least our first setup. Now for our next distributor card, this one should be quite simple. we just need to change our mode from transferring out of router to transferring into router. And so I can click on the back of these, and this should allow us to pull out of this machine. You can do the back, sides, or bottom, I do believe. And now all of those are linked up. Well, kind of. We're going to need to make sure that all of these machines are linked up, including the loot fabricator, because remember, we're going to be pulling items out of the loot fabricator as well. And now this should be set up and ready to go. So when I put this in here, if there's anything, for example, in this machine, it should now start pulling those predictions hopefully out of here. And just like that, there it goes. So on the bottom here, I've placed myself an ME interface. This allows our modular router to send items into the interface here. So to be able to send directly connected to the machine, we can use a regular sender MK1, and I'm going to select directly down. Now on this, I think what I want to do in this particular case is I just want to use this as a blacklist of what not to send into the interface. And so things that I don't want to send simply are the predictions that we're actually using. So if I place this in here, everything but the predictions should be sent out of our router, just like that. And then what we should be left with are the actual predictions themselves. And then that's where we can use, for example, our senders here, like this MK2. We can choose our destination for these, which will be inserting into these loot fabricators. I'm going to have one set over here for this side. So I'm going to make sure to link that one. And then this one over here is going to be set to this side. Now, I would recommend filtering these so that way you have these three machines basically being sent here. Otherwise, you could overfill this with predictions and then they would never get ran. But in this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and set a whitelist on this main sender, and I'm going to set my current prediction because I don't have the other one set up yet. And so if I only place this one in, we should notice that that immediately gets sent into the top of this loot fabricator. And then all you have to do is select what you want, and that should give you the shells. Now, what should happen is now the shells get pulled back into this modular router, and then the modular router follows that blacklist and is going to send the items into the interface. And so we should see shells, shulker shells, starting to fill up inside of our system. Exactly what we want. And that, my friends, gives us these beginnings of a very, very clean and sexy, beautiful looking setup for our simulation chambers from Hostile Neural Networks. Now, though, for the hard part, I've got to make data models for every single one of those mobs, which I'm going to be working on over time. Now, some quick tips with the modular routers. If you want to hush up the lasers, you need at least 2 of the muffler upgrades in here to prevent the laser beams that you will typically see sending the items around. And then, of course, you're going to want some speed upgrades and some stack upgrades in here to make the transfer of the items much quicker. And if you want to decorate these blocks, well, you can actually use some camouflage upgrades. And camouflage upgrades are pretty interesting as well. You could essentially make this whole thing this block right here. So I can shift right click on this, and then if I wanted to hide it, we'll just place it in here and you would never know there's a modular router there. And with that, guys, I hope you did enjoy. Hopefully you found something interesting or learned something new during this video, as that's what I strive to do. I strive to teach while also playing the pack, and I really do appreciate you guys. Of course, you know that. And with that, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already and give this video a huge thumbs up. And along with that, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Yumi. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support by choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. I can't thank you guys enough. I really do appreciate you. Join the Discord if you haven't already, and check out my live stream at twitch.tv/ChosenArchitect. And, well, that's about it for today. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye!